Imagine Moscow in the late 15th century, 1480. The city stirs beneath a golden sunrise, its wooden spires and onion domes catching the first light of a new era. The city is alive, its narrow streets bustling with merchants, craftsmen, and hopeful peasants. Moscow is finally free from 2 centuries under the Mongol Golden Horde, and the air is thick with anticipation and possibility. The Grand Duchy of Moscow, once a minor and overlooked principality, has shaken off its overlords. Now it stands poised to become the heart of a new Russian state. But freedom brings choices and risks. The city's leaders gather in shadowy chambers debating the future. Where should Russia go next? Which path will secure its survival and greatness? To the west lie powerful kingdoms like Poland and Lithuania, with strong armies, stone fortresses, and a culture shaped by centuries of European rivalry. To the south, fractured Khanates, remnants of the once mighty Golden Horde, struggle for power, while the mighty Ottoman Empire looms, its influence stretching ever closer to Russian borders. To the north, the icy Arctic presents a frozen barrier, a land of endless winter and harsh survival. And to the east, beyond the misty Ural Mountains, lies the mysterious land of Siberia, a vast, unknown wilderness, whispered about in tales and legends. Ivan III and his grandson, the formidable Ivan the Terrible, faced a cosmic dilemma. Which direction would shape Russia's destiny? Every choice carried the weight of history. Expansion promised land, wealth, and security for a growing population, but every path was fraught with its own dangers and uncertainties. The West meant clashing with organized, well-armed European powers, whose armies and cannons could crush the unprepared. The South meant facing fierce steppe warriors and the disciplined might of the Ottomans, both unpredictable and formidable foes. The East was different, an unknown, a variable in the equation of empire. It was a land of forests, rivers, and secrets waiting to be explored. Moscow was still small, tough, and vulnerable, its leaders ambitious but cautious, aware that a single misstep could spell disaster. The fate of a civilization rested on this choice. The scales of history hung in the balance, every decision echoing through time. Sometimes the greatest discoveries come not from confronting the known, but by venturing boldly into the unknown, guided by hope and curiosity. The East beckoned, a land whispered about by traders, full of mystery, opportunity, and the promise of something new for those daring enough to seek it. The rulers of Moscow stood at a crossroads, ready to chart a new course for their people and their future. The decision they made would echo for centuries, shaping not just Russia, but the world beyond its borders. And so, with courage and vision, the story of Russia's eastward journey began, a journey that would transform a nation and leave its mark on history. Moscow's neighborhood was a minefield of powerful rivals, each one presenting its own unique threat and challenge to Russian ambitions. To the west, the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth stood as a European giant, well-armed, wealthy, and fiercely independent, with a proud military tradition and a vast territory stretching from the Baltic to the Black Sea. Wars with Poland-Lithuania were brutal stalemates, draining resources for little gain. These conflicts left both sides battered, with borders shifting but little real progress made. To the northwest, Sweden was rising fast, building a professional army and navy, eager to control Baltic trade and expand its influence across northern Europe. Any move west meant fighting for every inch, with every advance met by fierce resistance and harsh terrain. To the south, the endless steppe was ruled by the Crimean, Kazan, and Astrakhan Khanates, masters of cavalry and lightning raids who could strike without warning and vanish just as quickly. These Tatar horsemen had terrorized Russia for centuries, raiding villages, burning towns, and carrying off captives in swift, devastating attacks. Pushing into the steppe was like fighting fish in the ocean, dangerous and unpredictable, with enemies who knew the land far better than any outsider. Beyond them loomed the Ottoman Empire, then at its peak, with the Crimean Khanate as its powerful vassal and ally, ready to intervene if Russian expansion threatened their interests. A war in the south risked drawing in one of the world's most powerful empires, turning a local conflict into a struggle for survival. West and south were high-risk, high-cost ventures with no guarantee of success, where every campaign could end in disaster. Every direction but east was blocked by formidable, organized states, each with their own armies, fortresses, and ambitions. The cost of expansion in these directions was immense, measured not just in money and men, But in years of hardship and uncertainty, the path of least resistance was not west or south, where obstacles seemed insurmountable and the price of failure was high. The East remained the only open door, a vast, untamed land promising new opportunities, where the risks were great but the possibilities were even greater. The East, Siberia, was a land of myth, not empires. For centuries, it existed in the Russian imagination as a place of mystery and legend, a vast and untamed frontier beyond the reach of civilization. To Muscovites, it was a wilderness of endless forests, strange animals, and scattered peoples. The land seemed both forbidding and full of promise, a place where the known world faded into shadow. The real treasure was fur, soft gold. These pelts were more valuable than silver, coveted by nobles and merchants alike. Sable, ermine, beaver, and silver fox pelts were worth fortunes in Europe and Asia. The demand for these luxurious furs seemed insatiable, driving traders ever deeper into the wild. Siberia's forests seemed inexhaustible, unlike the depleted lands of European Russia. Politically, Siberia was fragmented, a patchwork of territories with no single ruler. The Khanate of Sibir was weak, its control tenuous. Its leaders struggled to maintain authority over the vast, wild land and its diverse peoples. Dozens of indigenous groups lived in small, clan-based societies, skilled in their environment but unable to resist a determined invader. Their traditions and ways of life were shaped by the harsh climate and the endless forests. The combination of immense wealth and political weakness made Siberia irresistible. It was a land waiting to be claimed, its riches up for grabs. While wars in the west or south cost thousands of lives for little gain, a small expedition east could return with a fortune. The lure of easy wealth drew adventurers and opportunists from across Russia. The risk was low, the reward enormous. For those willing to brave the cold and the unknown, Siberia promised riches beyond imagination. The siren song of Siberian fur grew louder. Whispers of fortunes made and lost spread through the markets and taverns of Moscow. Moscow's rulers and ambitious merchants began to listen. The dream of conquest and profit became impossible to ignore. The stage was set for a new kind of conquest, a journey into the unknown, driven by greed, ambition, and the promise of Siberia's fabled wealth. Russia's leap into Siberia began not with armies, but with renegades. Yermak Timofeyevich, a Cossack leader, was hired by the Stroganov merchant family to protect their frontier from Kuchum Khan's raids. In 1581, Yermak and a few hundred Cossacks, armed with muskets and cannons, crossed the Urals. Their mission: punish Kuchum Khan and secure the frontier. Outnumbered but technologically superior, Yermak's force shattered the Khanate's armies. In 1582, they stormed Kashlik, the Khanate's capital. Kuchum Khan fled. Yermak sent word to Tsar Ivan the Terrible. Siberia was conquered. Ivan, once Yermak's enemy, was stunned and delighted. He pardoned Yermak and sent reinforcements. The gate to Siberia was open, not by royal decree but by a handful of audacious Cossacks. This small raid became the big bang of Russia's Siberian expansion. The conquest was swift, the rewards immense. Russia's destiny had shifted east. Why did Yermak's small expedition succeed? And why did Russia keep pushing east? The answer: the path of least resistance. Siberia was a power vacuum, vast, fragmented, and technologically behind. Russian organization and firepower overwhelmed scattered tribes and the weakened Khanate. The fur trade was so profitable it fueled a self-perpetuating cycle. Profits funded more expeditions, drawing merchants and adventurers across the Urals. The state followed, building forts and collecting taxes in furs. In the west or south, every gain cost blood and treasure. In Siberia, a few hundred men could secure a kingdom's worth of land and wealth. The choice was simple, brutal arithmetic. The arrow of history pointed east. Russia followed it. The alternatives to Siberia were painful. Pushing south meant crossing the Great Steppe, home of the horse archer, where Russian armies were at a disadvantage. Crimea was a fortress, protected by geography and the Ottoman Empire. Any move south risked a massive Ottoman response. In the west, Russia faced peer competitors, Poland, Lithuania, and Sweden, with disciplined armies and strong fortresses. Wars here were symmetrical, costly, and slow. The 30 Years' War showed how devastating European conflicts could be. Russia's own wars for Ukraine drained its treasury and left lands devastated. Every square mile was paid for in blood and gold. Meanwhile, in Siberia, explorers raced across thousands of miles, reaching the Pacific by the 1640s. The contrast was cosmic efficiency. Why batter against a wall when an open door beckoned? Siberia was that door. Siberia's geography, daunting at first glance, was actually Russia's secret weapon. The great rivers, Ob, Yenisei, Lena, formed a natural transportation network. Russian explorers mastered river travel, using flat-bottomed boats and portages to leap from one waterway to another. This allowed small groups to cover vast distances quickly and safely. The pattern of conquest followed the rivers. Fortified blockhouses, or ostrogs, sprang up at strategic points. These forts became trading posts, tax centers, and bases for further expansion. The indigenous peoples, skilled locally, couldn't match the Russians' long-distance mobility. The river network let Russia project power deep into the continent. Siberia's barrier became its greatest enabler. The conquest was as much about geography as guns. Siberia transformed Russia from a regional duchy to a global empire. Fur wealth fueled the treasury. At times, a third of state income came from Siberia. This money modernized the army, built a navy, and funded St. Petersburg. The Tsar gained financial independence, strengthening autocracy and enabling ambitious reforms. Siberia gave Russia strategic depth. Napoleon and Hitler both found it unconquerable. The conquest forged a unique Russian identity, straddling Europe and Asia. Ruling 1/6 of the Earth's landmass fueled national pride and destiny. Siberia's resources, furs, gold, timber, oil, remained Russia's economic bedrock. Yermak's Cossacks laid the foundation for enduring power. The empire's scale and security were born in the east. Imagine if Russia never took Siberia. Without it, Russia would be smaller, poorer, and locked in endless conflict with European neighbors. No Siberian wealth, no modernization, no St. Petersburg, no global power. The nation's frontier spirit and Eurasian identity would vanish. Strategic depth would be lost. Napoleon and Hitler might have succeeded. The Tsars, lacking independent wealth, might have shared power with the nobility, changing Russia's political evolution. History is shaped by single decisions. Yermak's raid set a continent's fate. Siberia gave Russia its scale, wealth, and security. To ask why Russia took Siberia is to ask why Russia became Russia. The answer lies in rivers, furs, and the path of least resistance.